We look at Matthew chapter 5, start with verse 17. Yahushua says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say to you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law." Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here outside under the heavens, and I'm standing on the earth, and it has not passed. You can look around and see for yourself. Step outside, look around you. It has not passed. Therefore, heaven and earth, if it has not passed, the law is still being fulfilled, because Yahushua is still fulfilling the law. And he is going to continue to fulfill the law until the new Yerushalayim comes down and Yahuwah dwells with his people in the city of New Yerushalayim. And until that happens, Torah is still going on. And it's important to understand. See, Yahushua fulfilled many aspects of the Torah, suffering the first time. He fulfilled the sacrificial part. See, he fulfilled the Passover, being the Passover lamb, slain on the day of Passover, being put into the earth on the day of first fruits, rising on the day, during the time of unleavened bread, rising on the day of first fruits, fulfilling those. But he has not fulfilled the aspects of the reigning Messiah yet, the one who would rule with a rod of iron, that all the mouths of all the nations would shut at him, that he would judge between many peoples. These things have to take place before the law and the prophets can be fully fulfilled. There's some of you who are going to want to argue that with me, but I can show you many messianic prophecies that haven't been fulfilled yet. They have to take place, and they will take place. But right now, Yahushua is still fulfilling them. He is up in the heavens on the right hand of his Father, just as the Tehillim told us that this would take place. And he's been cut off for a time on the earth, just as the book of Daniel told us that Messiah would be cut off. So these things are still being fulfilled. He's saying, I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. And he says that until heaven and earth pass, not one jot or one tittle shall pass from the law till all is fulfilled. And then in verse 19 he says this, "Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." So if you are breaking one of these commandments, if you are telling people to eat swine's flesh, and you are doing it with your actions, and you are leading others to do this, you are going to be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. You will notice, if you pay attention to the teachings that I give to you, I will never tell you to break one of the least commandments. Never. But we've got to rightly divide this book. We've got to rightly divide the word of truth. Look at everything in context. Look at everything throughout the scriptures. We've got to analyze. We've got to be able to decipher what we can do, what we can't do today. Because there are things that people will use the Torah. Some people use the Torah to try to manipulate you. Like to get your money, to get you up under bondage, up under their ministry, things like that. And that is not the purpose of Torah. We've got to be very careful. We are to keep the righteousness of Torah, but we've got to be very discerning. We've got to have the Spirit, and we've got to have truth. We've got to have both to work together, because if you just have truth and you have no Spirit, then you're going to be lost. If you have all Spirit but you have no truth, then you can set yourself up for all kinds of spiritual recklessness, getting involved in things that have no substance, and getting led astray. So he's saying that we've got whoever tells you to break the least of these commandments and teaches other people to do so are going to be least. And then he says, "For I say to you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven." The scribes were always altering the word of Yahuwah. Granted, in most areas they were very faithful copyists, but there were times that they would outright alter the word of Yahuwah, and they admit to it today. We know these things. We know that there have been things that they have tried to alter. But Yahushua said that not one jot or tittle should pass from the Torah till all is fulfilled. But the scribes, see what the scribes would do, they would do that, and then the Pharisees would enforce it. And then what we also have with the Pharisees, because you need to understand what scribes and Pharisees were accused of. See, the Torah tells us you do not add one thing to this Torah or take anything from this Torah. You don't do that. And the scribes and the Pharisees are both responsible for adding and subtracting. The Pharisees would do it in adding laws of their own through other books, such as the Talmud. and they would tell you to keep the things of the Talmud. And they would say that it is equal with Torah. This is wrong. This is a lie. This is not true. And it is ultimately sin according to the Torah of Yahuwah. That it is not equal to the Torah, and it cannot be looked at in such a way. Now, I want to look at Matthew chapter 13, because we're talking about the end of the age a little bit. We're talking about lawlessness. We're given some brief understandings about the end of the age and some of the things that must be. And we're going to look at Matthew. We're going to look at Matthew 13, and we'll start at verse 24. In another parable he put before them, saying, the reign of the heavens has become like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went away. And when the blades sprouted and bore fruit, then the tares also appeared. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? From where then does it have the tares? And he said to them, an enemy did this. And the servant said to him, do you wish that we go and gather them up? But he said, no, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. But let them both grow together until the harvest. And at the end of the harvest time, I shall say to the reapers, first gather the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my granary. Okay? This is very important. He gives the interpretation of what this means. His disciples don't understand it in verse 36, and they say, explain this parable of the wheat and the tares to us. And he answers and he says, he who is sowing the good seed that he was talking about, the man that sowed the good seed, he's the son of Adam. He's referring to himself when he says this. He's the son of Adam. And the field is the world. And the good seed, these are the sons of the reign of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil. And the harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the messengers. And the tares then is gathered and burned in the fire. So it shall be at the end of this age. The son of Adam shall send out his messengers, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all the stumbling blocks, and all those doing lawlessness. There we see the word lawlessness again. See, we see that this word lawlessness keeps continuing within Yahushua's ministry. He is warning people of lawlessness. He is saying that at the end of the age there are going to be wheat and there's going to be tares. What is interesting about wheat and tares is, if you understand this agriculturally, during the time of harvest, wheat and tares look very similar. Very similar. At the end of the harvest, however, the tares get a little darker in appearance, and they stand straight up, right? But the wheat is not like this. The wheat is lighter, and it bends over and bows itself to the ground because of the weight of the grain that is on its head, and the head of this wheat. It bows itself. And this is symbolic of the bread. Yahushua said that he is the bread of life. He also said in another place that man should not live off bread alone, but every single word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahuwah. And he is telling us that these people who bow themselves down, they're bowing themselves down because of the weight of the word, the weight of Yahushua, the weight of the truth. And because of the truth, they are bowing themselves, because now is the time to be gathered. And notice he gathers the tares first. This is contrary to what the church teaches. The church teaches that you're going to be, true believers are going to be raptured out of here. They're going to be called up away. That's not what he's teaching here. He's saying that first the tares will be bound and they're going to be burned, and then the wheat is gathered into his grain.